All right. Good noontime to y'all. As always on Wednesdays, the testing alarm goes off, and the pitch at which it goes off is actually, I think, designed for the Woo Pig Suey chant. And I get to go back to my Arkansas Razorback roots. I know that we have some people who are LSU Tigers in the crowd, so you're welcome to listen. You know, Arkansas is very welcoming, even to its competitors.
I can Woo Pig with that.
See, there you go. All right. So welcome back to a Part Chats presentation every fourth Wednesday of the month here at the Garland County Library. So these things cannot happen without Paul and his team hosting the live stream and when you can watch it online as well, and actually giving us a space that we can all gather at, which is fantastic, always helpful for the Garland County Library, and also the Eastern National Bookstore, America's National Parks. They are one of the most successful bookstores in the National Park Service, and they are able to assist with the Park Chats speaker series and also the Friends of Hot Springs National Park. So the purpose of the Park Chat speaker series, again, is to provide in-depth stories on the science and history of hot springs from sort of a trusted, reputable source. And we're lucky enough to bring in outside speakers who bring that deep knowledge and expertise. And Dr. DeVierville is certainly part of that. So I first reached out to Dr. DeVierville for his research. It turns out he has decades of experience in the history of spas and the history of water, not only from the research side, but from the applied side and the theoretical side. So from a research perspective, his dissertation was on the history of spa cultures in the Americas. And then he spent decades of study and research, whether in, where am I going to say Switzerland? Am I in the right country for Switzerland?
Yeah, Germany and Czech Republic. Mm-hmm.
And all places that have been part of this renewed spa culture the last 2 centuries. And he's also been part of the Balneology Association of North America, who has integrated hot springs into the research and presentations that they do on, and Dr. DeVierville can talk more about BANA and also the Hot Springs Association, then also his work into the theories behind water spa culture that are pushing a lot of his research today. So we get to see a worldview that is influenced by sitting in the library, being in the water, and also working with the researchers who are pushing forward with new questions about water, spa culture, and the like. And here in Hot Springs, we've been part of that, the applied, the history, and the testing in our own ways. This is one of the few places in the United States where water is protected and given to the public free of charge. That's the purpose of Hot Springs National Park. And so we are lucky enough to have Dr. DeVierville here today. Take it away.
Good. Well, thank you very much. It's really great to be here. I remember most of my times I visited Hot Springs. It's always been very good. Back in the 70s and the 80s, we passed through. I'm speaking to you now from my rock house down in Texas on Canyon Lake, where a week ago, the lake was only 59% full. Today, this morning, I went swimming in it. It's 99.5% full. We've had lots of rain, which is wonderful. But anyways, I'm here to talk with you about spa cultures and about balneology. I'm part of a group, the Research Information Education, BANA, the Balneology Association of North America. You can check it out online, balneology.org. And we're interested in research, information, education about the drinking and bathing waters, primarily of North America. So next slide. There we go. Okay. So the mantra for today is the waters know. The waters know, and in terms of what's going on with consciousness and water. So if we look, next slide, looking at the waters, this is the microscopic view of the geometry of a drop of water, the fourth root of pi. I don't know if any of you knew about this, but water droplet rings expand by the fourth ratio of pi. This is a very mathematical and sacred geometric structures that we find in a drop of water. Next slide. And we will come back to this. This is another perspective of the drop of water. You can see planet Earth just coming out of behind the moon. this is I'm very interested in the moon. Neil Armstrong's my cousin, so I've always had an interest in the moon. But here's the moon, the Earth looking over the edge of the moon. So next slide, please. But from our perspective, all human life on planet Earth is wet. We are, you and me, all of us are conscious, cognitive, molecular mineral waters in motion, a finely tuned conglomeration of hydrological, biological, chemical, physiological, psychological, and spiritual, refined processes and flowing forms, clean, clear, and complex. So this is the most complex statement I'll have today. I'm going to use a lot of images, but we'll be looking at the mystery of water. There's a lot to really think about the water as well as the waters, plural. We are the waters, sensing, thinking, feeling, imagining, becoming, wellness in being. Our bodies, brains, hearts, and minds, along with our living experiences of listening, seeing, touching, tasting, smelling, as well as remembering, imagining, conceptualizing, sleeping, and especially dreaming. The waters, we are the waters becoming conscious. We are conscious water beings. That's, I hope, if there's something you take away from this, is conscious waters, how waters become conscious. Next slide, please. Now, this is the lay of the land. These are the watersheds of North America. You can see y'all are in the big watershed there, the Mississippi and the Arkansas River. I'm a little further south there on the Guadalupe and the San Antonio River sheds in Texas. But again, it's always interesting to know where your water, where are the source codes. Next slide, please. So again, drinking and bathing cultures of the waters, by the waters, and for the waters. Next slide. So my perspective, I'm a retired professor of humanities and history, and I teach everything in general and nothing in particular, but I have enjoyed teaching, looking at things from at least 4 points of view, 4 perceptions. One on the top there for the languages and the arts, to the left, the science and technology of the phenomena, social, political, and economics on the right, and then the religious and mythological. So we have 4 perspectives on what's going on. In the center there, you see images of crop circles. That's a whole other discussion we can have in terms of disclosure, but not today. There's some really interesting phenomena happening in the planet. Next slide, please. This is a little more specific of the same thing. I'm not going to read through this, but you'll have this. But what it comes down to, it blends the science and technologies, it blends the social and the political, the moral, the religious, as well as the art. So we integrate these, and the integration of all of this is what I call spa cultures. Spa cultures includes all the range of wellness and well-being, healthcare, eugenics, therapy, and rehabilitation. Spa and wellness go together, is an a priori, as wellness is a priority of both spa and wellness include the waters. So again, that's the perspective I'm coming from. Next slide, please. So again, this is repeating again the experiences. How do you experience the water? How do you individually, and I'd ask each of you to ask yourself, how do I relate to water in the morning, in the afternoon, my bathing, my drinking? Because it really helps one to become conscious and aware of one's life. Next slide, please. So again, this integrates the arts and languages, the science and technologies, the social, political, economics, and the religious and the myth. Nice. Next slide. How they all blend together. Here are some of my sources that I've gone back to look at, and I don't know if you want to take a picture of that or we can get that, but I looked at historical books from, in fact, I actually have the very first book that was ever printed in English on mineral waters. It came out of England. It was from the 17th century, 16th century actually. But a very important book, I think, is that Spiritual Life of Water, The Power and Purpose by Alex Bartholomew, a good friend of mine who's since passed away. He was in England, in Bath, England, and we spent some good time there. Next slide, please. So this gets more specific. This is a bit redundant. It repeats the fact that we need to look at water from at least 4 points of view. Next slide, please. And this is, now we'll get into the water is the most extraordinary substance. Practically all its properties are anomalous. And this is perhaps what I want to leave you with or carry away from this is the mystery of water. Next slide, please. Water is a mystery. We don't really know or understand it completely, and there's some new research coming out. Water is the most common of substance phenomena on our planet. It's actually planet Aqua, planet water, not planet Earth, more water than mineral. And we are basically just one huge drop of mineral water, but it's also very mysterious. Water is central to all biological life, as much more than a simple molecule. Its list of anomalies of waters are lengthy. So next slide, please. Let's look at some of the anomalies of water. Water is the only substance phenomena on Earth that naturally occurs in 3 states. Actually, now they're finding 4 states. The solid, liquid, vapor, gas. The water as gas is one of the lightest clouds. The water as liquid is much denser. And the water as solid, of course, is much lighter. That's when we have ice. Next slide, please. These are some of the anomalies. Actually, when you get into the deeper research, water properties are different from those expected from other gases, liquids, and solids. When you list the wide range of anomalies in water itself, the water molecule, you have at least 13 phase anomalies. You have the density anomalies of over 22 anomalies. Material anomalies are 17, thermodynamic anomalies there's over 11, and physical anomalies over 10. So to go into all of this in a slide here would put you all to sleep, but we really, to walk away from, we need to really look at water as anomalous. Next slide. Now, again, the 4th phase, and this is just recent research that has come out, you can see here by Dr. Jerry Pollack, professor of bioengineering at University of Washington, in a conference I attended in 2016. That's over 10 years ago. They were looking at vapor, water, gaseous water, liquid and fluid water, but then in between liquid and solid ice, they've discovered exclusion zone or easy gel. It's a gel. It has to do with the structure. And this is some really fascinating, because what they're finding now is that water does pick up awareness, intention, consciousness, and memory. And I'll speak to that in a little bit. So next slide, please. So 6 layers for research. In other words, when you look at the anomalous phenomena of all of the waters, let's look at it from at least a 6 perspective. Next slide. So we can look, most people are looking from the physical manifestations, which is we're studying anomalous phenomena of the physics of it. There's then also the antiphysical factors and effects, which might be the medical physical. Then there's the 3rd aspect, the physiological factors in terms of your body. The psychological factors, number 4, what happens when you take a bath, a shower. The psychic factors, it's interesting, the impact of water on dreams. And I'm not necessarily talking about wet dreams, but I'm talking about taking baths and steams and then going to bed and sleeping deeply. And then, of course, the 6th factor here is the cultural factors. Different cultures use waters in different ways, but fundamentally it's the same in terms of regenerative capacities. So next slide, please. So fundamental to water is, of course, the vortex. Let me take a drink of water here. So spiral, vortex, torus, and phi. These are forms that we see, structures that we find in water. Looking deeply into water, we ask, what are the forms in the flow that regenerate and grow? And so here you see a spiral, the vortex in water. What do images, forms, numbers, and patterns know? So that's what we're looking for in terms of the deeper form and patterns and flow. Next slide, please. And again, this is the fundamental form that we find in water, the phi spiral, the 1.618 grow and flow pattern of nature. Goethe, the famous German scientist from the 18th century, did a lot of work on this. And We find this actually in sacred geometry. I would really encourage you to start looking for patterns of phi, phi, the spiral. It's the way that nature expands. Next slide, please. And here, waters and spa wellness. Now, if human species, that is the Homo sapiens sapien, is the conscious, sensing, thinking, feeling, intuitive waters, then how are human waters, that is molecule and DNA interfaced, interrelated, and integrated with our bodies and minds, especially in and through our pineal gland? So, and if spa waters are the process, the spa wellness and well-being are the outcomes. So there's something going on here too in terms of the relationship with water and how DNA and water molecules, the molecular level of life, communicate through the spiral vortex of phi in the DNA, and that gets into some deep physiology. Next slide, please. So here is something that I want to share with you, and you need to take a look at this and write it down. Phenomenological information and memory. It's a group of researchers I worked with in Germany, in Stuttgart, Germany. They put out a book called worldinadrop.com, and they discovered all this stuff through the space program. They were watching the water of astronauts, and they've recorded, and they found out now that water, a drop of water, can actually contain information, imagery, and memory. So it's fascinating stuff. Worldinadrop.com. Next slide, please. So this is some other papers I've been looking at in terms of the human soul, the water, the spiritual life, and the great work. I would really draw your attention to the upper right-hand corner, the work of Thomas Berry, The Great Work, where he talks about the mission of our time is to reimagine the human species, the humanity at the species level, and he gets into the ecological and eco-literacy, other things that you can see, the power of place. And of course, y'all live in a very powerful place in the center of the continent. I mean, there's so much memory and history at Hot Springs, Arkansas, that we're digging into that. You live in a very sacred place. Next slide, please. So going back now, looking culturally in history, go back to the Greeks. This is Epidaurus, the dream temples or the spa sanctuaries. This was in the 5th through the, about 1,000-year period span of time in ancient Greek civilization, where they would have people. These are places where people would come and take baths and purify, cleanse, prepare themselves for deep sleep, big dreams. But water was always used in the ritual. As I say, this is at Epidaurus, one of the major sanctuaries. At one time, there were over 200 of these sanctuaries throughout the Mediterranean, and that's a whole other discussion as to their ritual and how they go, and their healing temples. So, next slide, please. So, of course, the Romans picked it up. This is the Pantheon in Rome. Actually, originally, the Pantheon was designed as the vestibule, as the entryway to a series of baths that Agrippa built, and there you can see some of the motifs that are the seashell, and that some of you I think maybe have been. And this is the oculus where the sun comes through, and it acts as a clock. Next slide, please. So, but here, if we look in terms of the New World and the pre-Columbian spa cultures, the imagery here, and I'm not sure the closest mound building cultures, but I've spent some time up in the Ohio and Indiana area visiting. And of course, there's Cahokia up in, Illinois, Great Serpent Mound, and Newark, and these different places. We're finding that those were also ritual sites where people would use water, take baths in terms of preparation. The native people attracted to the waters because of the temperature, the color, the taste, the smell, the healing forces, and the curative powers that these thermal waters for bathing and drinking. And of course, we all have one of the largest sources of healing waters in the landscape in North America. There are thermal waters on the East Coast in terms of Hot Springs, Arkansas. We'll see some of those a little bit later here. But most of them in the far west, of course. Next slide, please. So this is the ancient American culture water ritual sites. The center larger one, that is Newark, Ohio, which has now just been turned into a World Heritage Site. I'd really encourage you to visit sometime. The whole thing is lined up on an 18.618 year cycle of the moon. I don't know how they did this, but this was in operation from about 500 BC to about 500 AD in Newark, what is now Newark, Ohio. It's west of Columbus, Ohio, about 15, 20 miles. To the far right, there is the Great Serpent Mound. Below it is also a picture of the Great Serpent Mound, which is also astrologically aligned with moon cycle, sun cycle. It's a huge clock, but it's also placed right in relationship to some springs and the creek bed. You can see that to the left. So again, ancient ritual sites on the North American continent. Next slide, please. Here is just a scattering of North American mound cultures. You can see they're quite spread. They go down into Louisiana, and some, you may know some of these, and there's some in Arkansas as well as Oklahoma. Next slide, please. If we go further out west, we come across the Hopi and the ancient Anasazi cultures. This is on the right. You see is an image, a picture of Jemez Hot Springs, which was in one of the bowls that they found there. So all the native cultures in the far west reverenced these sites and used them for healing and peace. Next slide, please. So indigenous approaches with the waters. And so if we look at the waters from an indigenous point of view, from a different perspective, the healing with the waters, they imbued the waters with healing intention. They cultivated the ability to encode waters with healing intention. That's key. What is your attitude towards the water? Water, of course, is a great reflector, a great mirror. So when you look into the water, when you look at your own face as you look in the water, I mean, it is nature's mirror, which poses and offers you a place for deep listening to yourself in terms of what, how you go about purifying and fasting and the conscious ways that you use water in daily life. But then, of course, what we're facing now are the healing with the waters on a global and a planetary scale. There are some major shifts coming in planetary scale and planetary knowledge. There's this whole disclosure movement going on now that the U.S. government is releasing all of its information on non-human intelligence, which is a whole other conversation. But some of these indigenous sites, I think, can be secure sites for as we make this transition, this metanoia, this transformation to a new game, to a new planet understanding. Next slide, please. So, but still sticking with the history of the age, these are some images from the Middle Ages, people where they would eat dinner while soaking. I don't know if that's a good idea or not. You might spill your food in. But the key thing here is the lower right-hand, the statement to that was you go in good and you come out better. So that's the way to look at your experiences at Hot Springs. You go in good, but you always come out better. Next slide, please. So again, a little more history here. Ponce de Leon was, of course, coming from Spain in 1513. He searched the route. He actually landed where Tampa is now. He got there before Disneyland did, but that was part of his route, and then worked his way around Florida. Next slide, please. And then your patron saint, Hernando de Soto, 1541 to 1542, is allegedly he came through Hot Springs or heard about it. I don't know all the specifics on that, but it's part of the early exploration of southeast, what is now the United States. Next slide, please. As the colonial thermal resorts in 17th and 18th century, we have New England, Stafford Springs, Saratoga Springs, Sharon Springs. These are all upstate New York. They're not thermal, but they're carbonated waters. There's different kind of waters. And then in Pennsylvania, you have Bath Springs. That's where Benjamin Franklin would go, and Jeremy Rush, and even George Washington visited Bath Springs. Bedford Springs, Yellow Springs, that's in Pennsylvania. And then the Saratoga waters probably have the most famous, but it's a cold carbonated water. Next slide, please. And of course, George Washington. What's interesting, this is Yellow Springs General Hospital right near Valley Forge. One of the main reasons that he wintered at Valley Forge was for the waters. I was there quite a few years ago when they had just been flooded, but it's a strong iron water there. And the very first Veterans Hospital was built around Iron Springs or near Valley Forge. Next slide, please. John Adams also visited Stafford Springs. It was halfway between Boston and Pennsylvania. You'd always stop here at Stafford Mineral Springs. It's now a church right there. You can see the spring to the left there. Next slide, please. Colonial spa waters in the 17th and 18th century, more of this. The person who wrote the most about this, his name was John Bell. He actually wrote a book. I was able to get a copy of it from the 18th century, but he wrote this, and he also sailed. And so as he was sailing around the world, he was writing his experiences at the Virginia Springs, the hot springs, the warm springs, healing springs, the White Sulphur Springs, the Rock Bridge, and there's more. And then one of the most famous balneologists there was Guy Hinsdale at Hot Springs, Virginia, which now is a huge golf resort, but they still have a spa and you can still visit the waters. And this is where Thomas Jefferson had his warm springs. Next slide, please. So again, 19th century studies of North American water. We started to get a little bit more scientific. The ancient and the modern and historical waters, they started to define them and classify them. They were doing chemistry, looking at the molecular constituents and what would be the actions, the pharmaceutical actions, the mineral, the chemical, and the gases. What's all in, not so much what is the structure of the water, but what is in the water. And they found them that they would affect disorders and they could be used therapeutically. There was seasons for shipping and types of baths and different types of mineral waters. So we started to classify and get into the chemistry and see more from a pharmaceutical nature. Next slide, please. And out of this came this 19th century classification. And of course, things are being reclassified now with AI and different gases and different scientific techniques. Tools are finding. And this is what gets into the structure of water itself. It's not just what's in the water, but the water structure itself. But here you have types of mineral waters that are found in nature. They're alkaline waters, saline waters, sulfur waters, calibrate or iron waters. Those waters at George Washington, those were used were the iron waters, the purgative waters, calcic waters, thermal waters, unclassified waters, seaside water, drinking water. So again, there's multiple. I found about 5 different classification methods, and of course in Europe they have a very systematic way of classifying their waters. Next slide, please. And again, here we come to Hot Springs, Arkansas, 1832. The first, and thank you, Andrew Jackson. 1870s, 80s, 90s, Bathhouse Row was really a prime time there. 1924, the Arlington Hotel, and then 20s and 30s, the Army and Navy Rehabilitation Hospitals. You all know a lot about that than I do, but what's interesting is during the 30s, they were discovering that some of your water was radioactive, and they thought that was the element that was, and there is a radon level in that, but it's more than that. It's a lot of it has to do with the psychological intent. And of course, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, thank you, FDR, for everything that he did. Next slide, please. This was Saratoga Springs, the Simon Baruch Institute for Research Laboratory, the only research laboratory. It was founded during the 1930s by Roosevelt and in honor of Simon Baruch. Bernard Baruch, who was Roosevelt's lead aide or lead brains assistant, they put a whole new plan on building Saratoga Springs it was a huge WPA project, and it's still there today, although it doesn't work so much as a spa anymore. It's more of an entertainment center now. Next slide, please. And this is the American Spa Association, 1950s, actually meeting in Marlin, Texas. This was the American Medical Association, and they did a tour of spas, including they had a meeting in the 30s at Hot Springs, Arkansas, a big national meeting. So that at one time it was very, very very active in these hot springs, but then the pharmaceutical industry kind of came in and took over. Next slide. Again, looking at some of the older sources, this was an old 1930s map of all the thermal sites across the United States. Now it's, of course, getting online with the, and it's much easier to access. Next slide, please. So again, looking at this whole phenomenon, looking at water from multiple perspectives, what is it? And of course, what the important thing is, what is your relationship to water? Do you see it more politically, economically, or do you see it as in terms of its beauty and its leisure, or is it just scientific, or are there some spiritual and psychological aspects to your relationship with the waters? Next slide, please. So again, my mantra at the end here is cognito ergo sum, or swim, cognito ergo balneo. I think, therefore I bathe. I encourage you to become very aware of and think about how you bathe, how you shower, how you wash, how you drink. Again, just to become very, as well as what is interesting in how the light, what is the play of light with water. There's something that goes on magical with light and the spectrum of light through water. Next slide, please. So again, some steps for baths and bathing. This is a hot tub at Manitou Springs, which is primarily drinking water. I don't know if any of you have been out to Manitou in Colorado. It's going up into the Rockies. A huge spa town during the 1920s and 30s. Unfortunately taken over now by pinball machines. They have a lot of entertainment. It's interesting how these places shift in terms of focus or what goes on there. Next slide, please. This is, again, the drinking the waters. What shall we do is always the question when someone arrives at the spring which has been chosen as a place for resort. Again, resort, you have a whole different sense of leisure time when you're at a resort, you're resorting. The answer is simple. If you are well, if you are there only for rest and recreation, assimilate yourself as rapidly as possible with the pleasures and the society of the place. Remembering, however, and practicing the trite maximum, temperance in all things. So again, the idea of drinking the water. Water offers balance in health, balance in life. There's a whole sense of holistic balance. Next slide, please. Drinking and timing. What is the best time for taking the waters? The morning hours before breakfast and in the afternoon before tea. The one may take the waters properly. He should cultivate the healthful fixture of early rising and the not less laudable virtue of early retiring. It cannot be expected that the most potent water will antidote and dispensations of erroneous dinners, inhibitions of spirituous liquors, and the continuous dancing till the morning hours. This is, of course, a 19th century description of drinking the waters. The important thing, of course, is to keep oneself hydrated. I'm going to have another drink of water here. So the timing, this is the clock, the timing, and Hygeia, the goddess Hygeia, holding the clock, standing on top of the clock, holding an orb of light. This is at Manitou Springs in Colorado. So again, water and timing are very related to each other in terms of the rhythms of one's life. Next slide. And then here are some more recent sources. If you're interested, the Springs of Virginia, starting at the right, springs, and then the Springs of New Mexico and Hot Springs, Colorado Hot Springs, the Great Hot Springs, the Southwest. Some of these journals are no longer being published, but the Guide for Hydrothermal Spa Development Standards. So a lot of this, the International Spa Association, which I was part of at one time, but now the Balneological Association. Again, there are different small groups, and you can go online, find a spring. You can, there's a lot of stuff, of course, accessible now online. And I would encourage you just to explore, but do find us, besides what you have there at Hot Springs, Arkansas, think of other places across the American landscape where you can go soak, sleep, and dream. Next slide, please. And this was one of my favorite ones out in New Mexico. Oh, I'm forgetting the name of it now. But Hot Springs, I was there with my brother, God rest his soul. Next slide, please. It's close to some ancient Indian native rock shelters. I cannot think of the name right now. Maybe it says it there, but next slide, please. And of course, what's always, when you use the waters, they go through. So it's important. These are pretty primitive sites, but the same idea is the regenerative capacity, how water moves through you. Next slide, please. And this was the one fall morning we were out there soaking. Next slide, please. And there was the dip and there was running water. Next slide. The dip in running water. And then this is Glenwood Hot Springs, the largest geothermal pool in Glenwood, Colorado, which is really a very nice pool. But unfortunately, the interstate was built on the other side of it, and so you hear a lot of car traffic. But it's good. This is a great pool to go with earplugs and just sit and soak. It has the largest, they claim to have the largest volume of water, but I think Hot Springs, Arkansas gives them a run for their money. Next slide, please. So back here to the microscopic look at water in terms of what's going on within the structure of water. There is geometry here. There is form. There is structure of water. And so the question I would be asking you, how does water give you form to your life, since water is life? And that's something to be thinking about and becoming aware of in your relationship, not only the geothermal waters, but everyday drinking waters. Next slide, please. And one more. And this is again just a plug for BANA. The BANA is currently intending on working on, information. We're doing regional mapping research in terms of the application. A lot of this stuff is old. It's just bringing back to memory. What is new, however, is this fourth phase of water that they're finding. There is a relationship between information, intelligence, and consciousness that water picks up, and that water does have a memory. So practicing balneology to provide an economic incentive for regional wellness, tourism associated with the natural geothermal mineral waters, and in turn supporting beauty, lifestyles, environmental and cultural perspectives for these special sources, sites, locations, and facilities. Again, I can't help but look at all of these source sites specific as really temples in nature. Unfortunately, they had a different way. They end up being entertainment and all that. But anyway, that gets into my prejudice. We'll leave it right there. So good. That continues. That's the slides. But I would be open for some conversation and questions and discussion.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. DeVilva. I really appreciate that. And this was a fascinating view of culture and metaphysics. And so we'll open up the questions to the floor. But does anybody have a question that they're super ready to go for? All right. What do we got? So, are you able to hear him in the audience? We go before George.
Do I need the microphone, or can you hear me?
I think I can hear you.
Okay. So, among other things, I'm a retired water and wastewater engineer, but also involved in a lot of the metaphysical aspects. One of the things from the science and technology point of view, the powers that be tell us that microwaving water doesn't have any effect on it, that it's still water. However, there are some concerns by some people that the act of microwaving water changes the geometry of the water in very significant ways that affects its effect on us. So do you have any information on the, the effects of microwaving water and how drinking microwave water affects us?
Yeah, are you familiar with the work of Gerald Pollack?
I'm not.
Okay, I would start there with fourth phase. It's the fourth phase of water. Doc, I don't know if we can get that slide up on back there, but it's Dr. Gerald Pollack, fourth phase of water. He
And how do you spell his last name?
Pollack, Pollock, Dr. Gerald. He's there. One more, let's see. There it is, yeah, Dr. Jerry Pollack, Professor of Bioengineering, University of Washington. And I would jump into his work because he is finding water, the actual structure within the water. Now, I have in front of me here an article. It's called Water's Quantum Electrodynamic Blueprint by Eric Thompson. And it's from Water's Quantum Electrodynamic Blueprint. You can pick it up online. But, what is the relationship between the electromagnetic field and the water molecule? I would imagine there is something which would have an impact, certainly in terms of temperature and structure. To answer your question, I don't know specifically. We're dealing, the wastewater. I want to talk. Would like to meet with you and talk more. If we can communicate later, because that's an issue that we're facing down here, front and center. They're wanting to put wastewater into the Guadalupe watershed, which is the source of drinking water here. And so we're trying to get purple pipe and or somehow reusing in one water. But to answer your question back, I don't know. Microwaving increases the heat. I mean, that's how I boil water in the morning for my coffee. But I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I would really take a look at Pollack's work. And there's a host of other, as well as that worldinadrop.com, the folks in Germany. And then there's other things that Veda Austin is doing. A lot of people are doing. Water's a mystery, and I think we're just finding new understanding of it. I hope I answer your question. I'm not sure.
Well, you gave me some great resources to look further.
Okay. Yeah, if you would. Let's see. My email is alamospa, ALAMOSPA @me.com. I used to for 30 years, I ran a spa in the historic Menger Hotel where Teddy Roosevelt organized Rough Riders in the bar here in San Antonio, next door to the Alamo. If you've been to, anyway, that's what alamospa@me.com. And just send me identifying, and I'll look for that. There's some other resources I have that I don't have handy on my table here right now, but I would start with Pollack and the worldinadrop.com.
Fantastic. Well, we have you here, and you can do culture, you can do research, you can do application. What's our next question up for Dr. DeBeerville? I have one. All right. While y'all are thinking, you'll talk about the shift or this sort of like tension in leisure, but also medical application in spas, and sort of almost a tension between recreation and leisure and then medical wellness.
Mm-hmm.
Has that tension always been there? And
yeah.
Does it shift in different ways over time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always make a distinction between balneology, the study of baths, and balneology and balneotherapy, the therapeutic uses of bath. a lot has to do with the intention. There's balneology, the study of baths and bathing, or the use of water. And that's also baths and bathing. It's using muds, it's using lights. There's different things. It's not just water, but primarily, and it's the different types. Like, for example, Father Sebastian Kneipp, Kneipp, uses cold waters. He has 168 ways of applying water to the body. So there are multiple ways. It depends upon your state, where you are at, as well as your intention. What is it? Are you jumping in to swim, or are you jumping in to soak? So, but if you distinguish between the study of as well as the therapeutic use of, and so that's that. What is the state of mind or the intention, the expectation as well. But as you can see, like at Hot Springs, I mean, you had some great. Over time, it turns into a great row of antique shops, and but then different people bring in souvenirs, and then there's Ripley's, and then it's part. But I think the important thing here is to remember that water carries memory, big time, more so than we think, and there's there's science to prove that. And there's also a psychokinetic effect. People can actually have an imprint on the structure of water by thought. So I don't know if I answer your question, but it's there's just so many ways to look at water. At least four ways, if not more. Okay. Other questions, comments, concerns, issues? I guess I'd be curious of the politics, maybe, of Hot Springs, Arkansas, given that you're federal. I don't know. We won't.
You might have to head out of the room for that one, or me to head out of the room.
No, I mean that's we have some real issues here in Texas, and of course, Colorado River. At Glenwood, I mean, they have beautiful caves and all of that, but now, there's, I don't think the Colorado reaches the Gulf of anymore. There's water is going to be, there's also a great book called Planet Aqua by Jeremy Rifkin. It just came out, but he looks at the whole issue of water from a global issue. And, again, how we treat our water.
Yeah. Not to speak for the audience, but your question about bathing, there is a question about how to bathe in hot springs, whether outside or inside. And I did look up this fact. The water in Glenwood, because you have the largest thermal pool in at least North America, it's about 800,000 gallons, which is probably more than the total daily outflow of water in hot springs. And so we produce about 450 gallons per minute of hot water that comes out of hot springs. It's about 2,400 gallons per minute that comes out at Glenwood. So the volume of water at Glenwood is so much higher, and that has always impacted how people bathe. We got another question for you, and you might have a question for yourself on the phone.
It's not so much a question as it is just an observation, because I thoroughly enjoyed what you had to say and the words that you use that puts it in a whole different context. And I'm thinking, we live here in this city surrounded by water. You just talked about the millions of gallons that pass through. You would not know that about Hot Springs. It is so undervalued as an asset, as a jewel, as something that we, want to let people know about. I stand down at the fountain myself and hand out water and sell this, why we can drink this. We're in the world in a national park where we have got so much water that we bathe in that I go down there and get it myself and I drink it. I love it hot, and it's just like it's underrated. We don't treat it with mystery and sacredness and so forth. It should be a shining jewel to reflect Hot Springs. I just think we're sadly missing the mark.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Promote it. I mean, why do the kids don't have a place down here to bathe in it outside is just beyond me, just beyond me. I mean, we let water just go by the wayside. We've got so much of it. And so I really don't understand why it's not a more visible presence. She's beautiful, mysterious, sacred. We don't live without her. And it's not represented here.
It is the most durable resource of this town. It's so amazing, right? 2
Absolutely.
centuries. And so what I find fascinating,
Yeah.
I'm going to interrupt you just real quick.
I'm not dizzy or anything. I so agree with what you just said. And you said it so beautifully with like other words that I hadn't even thought to describe the feeling that I have about the drinking and this water here. I mean, I'm emotionally attached.
100 years ago, it wasn't covered, right? There's a reason why it's a national park, right?
Exactly.
Different generations have understood the water in
Absolutely.
different ways. And so hopefully by protecting it, we can find that next generation as
I'm ready to sign up.
I hear a calling. I hear a calling. Yeah, please. And if you can, they have my this presentation. You can get a copy of it. And also, please get in touch, and we'll see what we can do. Take a look at Bonna, but no, this is something that we are Planet Water. It's and we need to have a different attitude toward. And what fundamentally, in all my research, one of the things that I found is you can tell the regenerative capacity of a culture in its attitude towards water. In other words, how a culture can regenerate and sustain and live in balance is directly related to its conscious attitude towards waters. And unfortunately, we just look at waters as flushing it into the next river water. I mean, we don't have a sense of reverence. Water is the blood of nature. So we need that. One other suggestion, which would draw attention. It might be a little, but just start walking. Go down Bathhouse Row in bathrobes. Just start walking around in bathrobes on Bathhouse Row. See what happens.
I'd already be doing it. I don't know. In Hot Springs, it happens.
You can have a bathrobe day.
I love that. I absolutely love that.
Oh, yeah, judges wear bathrobes. That's true.
Yeah.
That's a great idea, isn't it?
Bathrobe day once a week.
We're running up the tubs. We can certainly have that. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I hope I didn't instigate something there.
I hope you
I
did.
don't know it's so much of a question, but when you mentioned that the water has memories, I came to Hot Springs 7 years ago, mainly because I was called here by the water. And since then, I've been in Hot Springs all over the world. I've done sacred ceremony in Lake Titicaca. I've done all that stuff. But I came here primarily because of the water. And now I'm a volunteer at the Fordyce, and I've learned a lot about our water here. When you said about the memory of the water, our thermal water, we say, is 4,500 years old. And then there are cold springs here, one's about 200, and then the Whittington water, which is the water that I'm really have an emotional tie to, is 6,000, is that correct? So that is what I mainly drink. And it just struck me when you said water has memories. So I don't know if drinking the older waters, I don't know. Speak to me about that. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
A memory of water.
No, I think that's water and time. And it might be helpful to re-examine. I know you've been spending a lot of time on 250 years, but this water is much older than that. Maybe look at developing different timelines for the water and keep asking yourself, how old is this water? Where was the planet? Where was the awareness on the planet at the point? And then there's the whole issue of primal water. They're now drilling 7 miles deep. They're tapping into water that has never seen sunlight. out in the west. But you know, this is another project that Kane can. Just kidding. But yeah, I think what you have there at Hot Springs is a legacy, and start to track it back in terms of its memory.
Yes. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. As you walk in bathrobes down Bathhouse Road.
I do tell visitors that 4,400 years ago is when the water that surges to the surface first arrived on the planet Earth in its most recent form. And then whatever rains today will come out in 4,400 years. So we are constantly in the middle of a 9,000-year epic in the history of the world. There are very few places where we are so constantly in the midst of millennia, like we are with the water.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to
that's a real key word there, millennia. Get the millennials involved, but I think you need to look at Hot Springs from a 1,000-year perspective. I mean, our Western history really begins 1,000 years ago with William the Conqueror in 1066, which would be anyway. We have different timelines, but I think you have a really ancient, and of course you have your crystals and fossils. I mean, there's deep time at Hot Springs. Look for deep time.
We definitely have short time for one more question or comment. Our comments have been really nice today. I really appreciate that.
I'll just say something, just to invite you, if you ever come to Hot Springs, that you should go, about an hour west of here to Collier Springs, which is revered by many, many as being the most spiritual water in North America. And one of the reasons is that it flows through the quartz crystal bed before it gets to the surface. So if you ever come to Hot Springs, you can look up Collier Springs on the internet. It's about an hour from Hot Springs and highly revered. Collier, Collier.
Would you send that to my email, please?
Sure.
Yeah, alamospa@me.com. I'd appreciate it. And see, water is basically liquid crystal. Water is a liquid crystal. Based on the fourth root of pi.
We were actually at Collier Springs on Sunday, and there was a couple that drove up from Hot Springs because they go to Collier Springs to get their five-gallon water jugs filled. So it's really a neat place. It's an old CCC built. You know it?
Yeah.
And we picnic over there. We have a camp on the Caddo River, so we invite people over and take them for a ride up to Collier Springs and have a picnic at the pavilion that was built, because it's just fantastic. People are like, "Where are we?" We're like, "You are in the national forest."
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate, there's so many people that we meet who are fascinated by the water. They don't all come to the park chats, but I really appreciate not only y'all's questions, but y'all's comments. And obviously, Dr. DeVere, always appreciate your time that you spend telling about the history and the research and the metaphysics of the water. So thank you all very much for coming out today. And again, next month, not water, but botany, which should just be water plants.
Yeah. Good. Thank you. Blessings. Keep in touch and keep the conversation going, and look for deep time and deep water.